Hi there. Come on in. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching The Practical Sportsman. It's Thursday night, January 17th, the year 2001. We are going to talk about guns once again on this show, and I'm sure we will frequently over the coming year. But with the new CCW legislation that has passed, a lot of misconceptions out there about guns, especially handguns, what it takes to get them. Are they registered now? We're going to go through that process step by step. We also have an explosive recipe for atomic chili and a lot more, so please stay tuned. Before we get into the more fun parts of the show, I feel compelled to talk about something that sportsmen have a stake in, and that is our image. What is our image as hunters and fishermen? I've heard for years that the, quote, slob hunters give the rest of the hunters a bad name. I disagree with that. Why should we, law-abiding, upstanding people, have a bad name because of the deviant activities of a few? And what brought this to mind was an article, a headline as a matter of fact, right at the top of the column in the Detroit News towards the end of December. It said, "This gives hunters that same old black eye." Well, that caught my attention. What do you mean black eye? I'm a hunter. What is this same old black eye I get? Hunter kills peregrine, a rare falcon. Okay, it's on the endangered species list, and apparently a hunter or somebody shot a falcon in around Harson's Island. And this was during duck season. Well, do we deserve this same old black eye that a DNR spokesman says that we get? I object to that. I disagree with that. And I think of all people, the DNR should not be telling the public that all hunters now have a black eye again. We didn't do it. Law-abiding people didn't do it. For crying out loud, this makes me feel a little self-conscious when I see that and defensive. And why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't our DNR be advocating that this was not a law-abiding hunter and try to remove any inference of a black eye? I mean, you talk about black eyes. Here's another thing I have to bring up. A group of us had some great hope in the Senate Hunting, Fishing, and Forestry Committee last February. We went down and testified to try to get the way DNR regulations were made, to get them changed, to be more friendly to the public. Well, right after that hearing, the head of that Senate committee, David J., there it was in the paper, held on alcohol charge. Second time in 7 years, a drunk driving charge. Then we find that the prosecutor seeks jail time. I mean, this is a guy who's a hunter, pro-gun guy who is the head of this committee, but this DUI charge overshadowed his efforts. And it's kind of embarrassing, okay? But the question is, who gets the black eye on this? Is this something that legislators should get a black eye for? Because Jay is a legislator. He's a hunter, a sportsman. Should we take a black eye for that? Well, the senator entered alcohol rehab. The Senate stripped him of the committee post, so he was no longer head of the Hunting, Fishing, and Forestry Committee. He got 45 days in jail. He did adjust well to life behind bars, apparently. The newspaper said he worked in the jail kitchen, and good behavior earned him early release, and finally in August he's back to work after a jail term. Okay, maybe that's over. It wasn't mentioned in any of these headlines that somehow hunters get a black eye from that. But now look what came up the 19th of December. Warrant issued for legislator. Bay County officials have issued an arrest warrant for State Senator David J. that accuses him of violating his restricted driver's license to go deer hunting. Oh, great. Now this is tied in with David J.'s behavior, the fact that he's a deer hunter. Do we hunters deserve a black eye for that? See, I don't think so. I think the black eye goes on one eye, and that is David J. I think also the hunter who killed the peregrine falcon gets the black eye, not all hunters, that same old black eye. I really object to that. I think that hunters should object. You should object. Don't buy into that guilt. Don't buy into that image. If anything, write a letter to the DNR or the governor and say, quit telling the public that we deserve black eyes for what people who violate the law do. And this is getting really critical, and it's going to get worse, I think, as we go into the coming year with the concealed weapons legislation that so many people don't understand. Why do I think they don't understand it? Look at this headline. This was just on the 13th of January. Boy suspended over gun-shaped toy. Pontiac third grader faces 60 days off school. He's a third grader for bringing in what they said a 1.5-inch long gun-shaped medallion to class. Said he apparently found the piece of jewelry in a snowbank, but state law takes precedence and requires us to take action even though it was a toy. Well, it apparently wasn't even really a toy. Said even though the piece of metal looks like a charm for a necklace, it violates the law. For crying out loud, a third grader bumped out of school for 2 months because of a charm he picked up that happens to be in the shape of a gun. Now, the next thing we're going to have is you can't use the G word. You know, the G word, it's going to have to be a G-shaped toy. This is really crazy at a time in society when our legislature has passed what 31 other states have passed, allowing law-abiding people at certain times in certain places to carry a handgun. Well, there's a lot of misconceptions with this. Here's a handgun that I purchased back in 1985 specifically for deer hunting. And I think at this time it would be wise for those of you who don't understand the gun regulations that are in place and the very strict registration on handguns in Michigan, take a look at what was involved in 1985 to register this gun, and the same law is still in effect today. Magnaport International in Mount Clemens was the place I got hooked up with a hunting handgun. Back in 1985, when Bob Garner worked for me, we made arrangements with Larry Kelly at Magnaport to videotape the process of purchasing a gun from a dealer. Now, even in 1985, over 15 years ago, all handguns in Michigan had to be registered, even though they were used solely for hunting or target shooting. All of the trophies on the walls at Magnaport were taken by Larry Kelly with handguns, not the kinds of pistols you see in the movies, but specialized handguns for big game hunting. And at the time, Larry Kelly had to walk me through all the red tape that was involved in buying a handgun.
In using a gun, what am I going to have to do in buying a gun? I don't own a handgun right now. Is it a big deal? What, I go down and...
Well, I don't think it's a big deal because I'm used to it. My first gun, I went through the same procedure that you'll go through now. They say that there's no gun control. In the state of Michigan, there's always been gun control as far as I know. What you do is you go to your local police department and you apply for a purchasing permit. And it'll take 2 to 10 weeks depending what city or township you're in.
Now that's in order to buy...
To purchase
a handgun?
To purchase a handgun.
Do I have to tell them exactly what handgun I'm going to purchase?
No, you do not. All you're doing is applying for a purchasing permit, which gives you the right to purchase a handgun.
Now, can I only purchase one handgun on that permit?
On that permit, one handgun, yes.
What if I wanted to buy 2 handguns? I go and get 2 permits?
2 permits.
Okay.
One for each gun.
And that takes 2 to 10 weeks?
Yeah, it's different in different townships. Some townships, they have where you can only go in there certain hours 1 day a week. They don't make it easy for us.
Well, how come so many people say anybody can buy a handgun?
Well, I always couldn't figure that out either because nobody can just go out and buy a handgun.
Yeah, well, you remember. Well, they have them for sale at Meyer Thrifty Acres and other places.
Well, I don't
used to.
They're for sale, but they can't sell them to you unless you have a purchasing permit.
So if I was going to buy this handgun, I go through the permit, I go buy it from you, pay you,
well,
and then I have to...
You'd get your purchasing permit from your local police department. You come in with the purchasing permit. It has to be signed and notarized. And then we have a yellow form. You'll fill that out, and you'll swear to all different statements that you're not involved in no crimes, you're not a felon, so on.
Now this is a form you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have to fill that out. Then we take 1 copy of your purchasing permit, give you the other 2 copies. You go back to the police department and you present the gun and the 2 copies of the purchasing permit. Then they will type out and issue you a safety card, which is really a registration card.
Mm-hmm. So they know which gun I have, the serial number. That gun is registered.
It goes right in the computer. But the thing of it is if you were, to quickly go through it, say you saw a gun, you wanted it down here today at Magnaport. I know you don't usually, sell retail or whatever, but say you wanted to buy one from Larry. You have to, or you want to buy one from anybody, you have to find out which gun you want first. We're down in Mount Clemens. If you decide on a gun today, we have to go back to Lansing without the gun, get it all lined up with a permit to purchase, which takes that amount of time that Larry's was talking about, 2 to 10 weeks. Then drive all the way down to Mount Clemens, pick the gun up, fill out all the forms down here, including, you've got thumbprints along the way too.
You mean, so we can't do this through the mail?
No, and then you've got to go right on back to, since you don't live in a city, you've got to go right down to Mason, Michigan, in order to take that gun back down there and register it and have it safety inspected at that point. So you're talking about a process, right now we're looking at several hundred miles minimum, and a month, 6 weeks.
And how much is they going to nick me for that? What's it going to cost?
Well, very few townships and cities charge, but some are charging now a $2 or $5 filing fee. But after you purchase your firearm, and
okay, say I own it,
and it's
registered.
Mine. This only entitles you to keep this firearm in your home. You can't carry it on your person. If you're going to take it to the target range or for hunting, you have to have the registration card with the firearm enclosed in a case in the rear of the vehicle. The same laws pertain to as in transporting a rifle for, when you're going hunting.
And except on a pistol, you have to have the shells in some other compartment of the vehicle. You have to have the shells up in the glove compartment or whatever. But it's got to be locked up and inaccessible when it's in the vehicle with this permit. If you go take your .22 pistol out and decide to go rabbit hunting, you better make darn sure that shells are separated from the gun, and while you're out hunting,
I have to carry the permit with me?
Right, and you should never, ever let even your coat, even if it's raining, flop over your handgun, because they're guilty of
Concealed weapons?
felony, 5 years.
So if I go through all of this, I still have to get a concealed weapons permit if I want to put it under my coat?
While you're hunting, to keep it out of the rain, you have to get a concealed weapons permit.
Holy
And that
cow.
doesn't entitle you to carry concealed any other time
Except hunting?
while you're hunting. You can get a target one also to carry it concealed at the target. Not concealed in the car going out to the target range or out to hunt, but concealed while you're hunting.
So I go through all of this and I get this gun. I can't just say, use it for personal protection.
In your home, you can.
In your home.
Certainly,
But I
yes.
can't keep it under the seat of my car.
No way.
I
No
can't,
way.
if I'm down into the dangerous parts of
No way.
Detroit or any city, I can't carry it with me.
No.
No way.
What would happen if I did? And got
You'd be arrested.
5-year felony.
Oh no, that's a little too much to monkey with there.
See, that's what I don't understand. The do-gooders, the anti-gun people are saying, they're screaming for gun control. We have gun control here in Michigan.
Well, it's very stringent. It must be that these easy-to-get guns, they're talking black market guns, just like they're talking
They're
heroin
illegal
and
guns.
And
Right.
stolen guns.
Yeah.
So handguns. I think I am going to go handgun hunting for deer. I mean, am I taking a real shot in the dark, so to speak, on that?
Not really, because handgun hunting is really growing across the United States, and it's...
Well, it may grow, but how will I be able to do deer hunting?
Well, you do real well with some instructions and understanding the gun and taking reasonable shots. You do real well.
You're talking about me giving up a rifle
Well,
that I can rest on a branch and...
well, you can rest that gun too, and I think once you do hunt with it and you connect with a deer, I don't think you'll be using the rifle anymore.
I have taken several deer with that handgun and enjoyed that type of hunting very much, but recently the spider web of laws surrounding transporting handguns has made me reluctant to go off half-cocked. With the uneven enforcement on handgun transportation laws, I've left it locked up in the museum in recent years. The law was recently changed, though, and we'll be exploring various facets of this new regulation in the months ahead. So that we can talk about the CCW process from first-hand experience, Attorney Toby White and I have signed up for the CCW class. First one we could get into is 2 months from now, but we'll be reporting on that. Now let's bring Charlie Keenan out of the woodwork here to fix us a very explosive recipe. On a cold night, there's nothing like unveiling a pot like this. Oh, look at it steam. This is called Chuck's Meaty Atomic Chili. Oh, this is, well, guessing from the name, this is going to be a real killer. Chuck sent this in. He wasn't able to make it up here to make the recipe, so Charlie Keenan put this concoction together. Charlie, what do we have in here? I see beans.
There's beans, there's mushrooms, which makes this unique. I've never had a chili with mushrooms in it. You slice those up, and it has a venison steak in there, plus ground venison.
Well, I can see the steak.
Yeah, you make
right
that
here,
up into
chunks
chunks.
of steak
Yeah,
with tomatoes.
and I think that's unique. There's tomatoes in there, And there's something in here that's going to really surprise you.
Looks like a piece of, right there, a little piece of jalapeno
There's
pepper.
jalapenos, both yellow and green, the yellow peppers. But what thickens this is peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Yes.
You know, I've heard of chefs using peanut butter if a dish gets burned to take the burn flavor out.
I tell you, I snuck just a little taste of this. I think you're going to be surprised.
Okay, well,
This is fantastic.
dish it out. I want to get some good chunks of meat in here. And I like this, the looks of this juice anyway. I like juicy type of
I do too.
soupy chili. You know, that's since I've gotten older. I like more broth. I don't know why. But when
Well, you're going to want to have a good set of teeth on this because it is meaty, and you can really taste that meat in there.
I love it this way.
Very good. And remember, we thickened this with peanut butter. And you can't taste the peanut butter at all in the recipe.
No, it's very mild. I'm waiting for the atomic. It isn't,
Well, it's working right now for me.
well, I like spicy dishes, so it's very pleasing.
This is very edible. It's not going to knock the back of your head off or anything like that.
Well, you do have to sniff a little bit because it is hot. But you know, these big chunks, which are like stew, but it doesn't taste like stew because it's a chili. You know, it's a chili every bite. Nice twist on a chili. Now, what's this stuff?
That's my own homemade sauce. You should try a little bit of that if you want to.
Well, you know, I'm not put off by the heat in the chili. In other words, it doesn't.
Now, that's going to be hot. You got to be careful.
That's too much, you think?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I can take a lot of hot stuff. I'm going to try it. Perk you right up, Charlie Munn. Perk you right up.
I find you don't need a lot of that.
It'll take you to the point where you can hardly talk.
That's my secret sauce.
But you don't have to put this in the atomic chili if you don't want. You know, it's crazy, but I like this.
It's a good dish.
Smoke coming out my ears, and I still like it.
If you didn't write down all the ingredients, the quickest way to get them is to go to our website. It'll be on the home page for this coming week, or you can send us a stamped, self-addressed envelope, and we'll get it off to you right away. Now, let's cut to a different subject here, knives. Here's a knife that Ted Morse loaned us for the put on display at the museum. An interesting knife. It looks like a fixed bladed knife, but our weapons expert, Mike Stewart, taught me differently.
Well, this is the easiest one here, because this is a Rapala style knife, except that this one you actually take apart. I don't know if you realize that. This is a two-piece knife here. You see that? Mm-hmm. And you fold the blade up. Most people would just see that and think it's a fixed blade knife, and then you put it back in the handle for safety. But this is the national knife of Finland, is this style of knife. It's called a Rapala, and it's the knife that everybody in Finland carries. This has happened to be a folding one, and it's marked Fomberg, Sweden. And I've seen quite a number of these. They're not that rare, but a lot of people don't know they come apart.
What is it worth?
Oh, this one's probably worth $50, $75 to a collector. Condition is important. This one's in okay condition. It's not great. It's not pristine, but I would say that it would be something worth having in your collection. This is usually either bird's eye maple or what they call flame swirl maple. That could be finished up nicely. These just need to be polished a little. I don't think you could hurt the collector value on this by cleaning it up. Some knives you can. This one, you wouldn't hurt anything. This is not real old. It's just unusual.
So 50 to 75?
Yes, $50 to $75.
It was this time of year, January 20th, when Richard Bame from Manchester made an unusual winter catch on a tip-up, an 11.5-pound, 30-inch channel catfish from Twin Lakes in Washtenaw County. Richard was probably fishing for this species, a northern pike, like the one 14-year-old Brian Wright from Lennon caught in Roscommon County. This 20-pounder, 42 inches long, came from an unlikely lake.
Higgins Lake, known more for trout than pike. Bob Jeruzel from Gaylord made the local paper with his January 23rd catch, a 21.5-pound northern pike, 44 inches long, got its spearing from a shanty on Hart Lake in Otsego County. Now this big muskie came from our featured county this week, Sheboygan County. You know where that is? Well, the town of Sheboygan is just east of Mackinac City on northern Lake Huron. That's in Sheboygan County, which in 1999 came up with 3 notable hunting award winners. Walter Sherwood from Niles took a 20-pound tom turkey during the fall season. It has a 10-inch beard, was on public land. Bob Thompson from Mackinac City got this 11-point buck from private land using a 30-06 with a 150-grain bullet. That's a tall rack from Sheboygan County, 11-inch tines. But the biggest rack of all was a 6x7 bull elk. Longest tine, 19 inches. Dave Carlovato from St. Charles got it on December 10th using a Remington 700 and the versatile 30-06. The head was mounted, the meat was eaten. Now back to the Sheboygan County fish, taken in Black Lake on January 24th, a 33.5-pound, 48-inch muskie. There was a father-son effort. This is what Ray Rusky? Raysky was using, a little ice fishing pole. Was this the Swedish pimple you were using?
Yeah, same one.
Oh, that was the one. Cool. How much you want for it?
Ain't for sale. That's going to be up on a wall with the fish.
Well, that's outstanding. This was, what, about 6-pound test line?
No, 8. 8-pound test.
8-pound test.
But we were fishing in 39,
Hang on just a second here. Let me get the mic.
okay, 39 feet of water. And when this fish bit, you know, you can't see down that far. And when I kept bringing them up, my boy said, "Dad, you got a big muskie on there." Well, I figured, that's it. You're never going to get them. But he said, "Well, pump them like you do a salmon." So,
Oh, really? You're pumping with this little rod?
With that little rod, and it was bent.
Wow, that's something else. This was from Black Lake in Sheboygan County.
One little side story, Fred. That morning, he didn't get up too early. You know, we were going to get out to the walleye shack, but of course it was his 46th anniversary, so I let him sleep in a little bit. You know, but.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I
you probably had quite a night the night
Yeah.
before. Ah, Ray.
When you get that old.
But I did go out to the shanty. I got the hole spotted out and got the stove and everything going. Then I came back and got him and put his lure down with the minnow on it and everything, you know.
Oh, he set you up with
Yeah,
this.
he set me up, yeah.
All you had to do was just crank it in.
Yeah, but that was a big job. I don't know how long it took, but we got it.
Well, Ray, an outstanding
Everything held. The knots held, the flying held, and everything else held.
Well, very good. Congratulations on that, and happy anniversary. Last weekend, a foot of ice on Lake Cadillac in Mitchell, according to Chip at Pilgrim's Village. It's been slippery, so wear ice cleats. The hottest action is on tip-ups for pike. Crappie have been steady, running 10 to 14 inches. Walleye have been better than in the past 5 years, according to Chip. Steady catches of frying pan sized. 8 to 15 inches of ice on Little Bay to Knock, according to Naomi, but the thaw made it really sloppy this past weekend. Walleye have been slow, perch have been pretty good, some big females up to 14 inches, but there have been lots of big pike on tip-ups and spearing, 20-pounders. Andy Gorski at Frank's Great Outdoors said Saginaw Bay should bust out with some good walleye and perch fishing any day, but it didn't happen last weekend. Perch were 2 miles out. Not many anglers going for them. Most were going 4 miles out in 16 to 19 feet of water for walleye. There were few and far between. Down at Lake St. Clair, Jimmy Lewandowski said the thaw made some dangerous soft spots where there's moving water. Watch the river mouths, but plenty of ice in the boat basins, 14 inches on the lake. Last weekend, Jimmy said, was the worst weekend of the winter. Fish could be seen moving through the holes, but they wouldn't bite. The forecast for this weekend, much better, presuming the temperature stays below freezing. Things should start popping any day now. If you're thinking about the warm spring fishing already, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on equipment, we have some interesting things coming up in next week's show.
When I was a child, these are the reels that you saw. Pfluger Akrons and Pfluger Summits.
The old bait casting reels. 50 years ago, these were the top of the line. Today, they're used for decorating, and there's some interest by collectors. Fishing tackle expert Bill Sonnet evaluates a handful of rods and reels this week on The Practical Sportsman. That's coming up same time, same place, right here on Public TV.
Well, somebody has to want it, and it has to be rare.
Neither Tim Hayes nor I will be at the museum this Saturday. I'm going to be up in Bark River, up across the bridge near Gladstone, shooting in the annual polar bear shoot at Orchard Hill Sporting Clays. That's going to be fun. Tim Hayes will be goose hunting. Remember, the goose season is open until February 6th. And also remember, your turkey permits for the spring are due February 1st. Now, have some fun this weekend, and I'll see you back here next week. Now, what's this stuff?
That's my own homemade sauce. You should try a little bit of that if you want to.
Well, you know, I'm not put off by the heat in the chili. In other words, it doesn't.
Now that's going to be hot. You got to be careful.
That's too much, you think?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I can take a lot of hot stuff. I'm going to try it. Perk you right up, Charlie Munn. Perk you right up.
I find you don't need a lot of that.
It'll take you to the point where you can hardly talk.
That's my secret sauce.
But you don't have to put this in the atomic chili if you don't want. You know, it's crazy, but I like this.
It's a good dish.
Smoke coming out my ears, and I still like it.
When I was a child, these are the reels that you saw. Fluger Akrons and Fluger Summits.
The old bait casting reels. 50 years ago, these were the top of the line. Today, they're used for decorating, and there's some interest by collectors. Fishing tackle expert Bill Sonnet evaluates a handful of rods and reels this week on The Practical Sportsman.
Well, somebody has to want it, and it has to be rare.